wants to use the word technology to talk about our uniquely contemporary way of experiencing the world.
Everything is interconnected, everything is exchangeable, and all meaningful distinctions have been gotten rid of, except this one sort of empty distinction, to be efficient and optimized. And you see it all over the place. We're so used to it that we don't even notice it. That's what great philosophers are supposed to do, is help us see what's going on in our understanding of being.
Efficiency demands a kind of standardization. You have a few ways that you become very, very good at, and then you repeat them over and over and over and over and over again.
You have these sort of frightening subdivisions that you see as you drive in from the airport usually, where all the houses on the side of the hill are the same shape, the same color. They just discovered that's the most efficient way to build a house, and they just build them all that way, and everybody manages to live that way, and so everything is totally standardized. Everything is just resources to be optimized.
The most efficient way to feed people is to have a few ways of doing it, and then you impose it everywhere. The most efficient way to make a broad range of goods available to everybody is to do it on a big scale, like Walmart does, and make everyone indistinguishable and have everything organized and efficiently laid out.
It's just to get the world as organized as possible and to bring more and more into this total organization. It's really systems thinking. Everything's a system. The airplane is no longer an object when it's sitting on the runway. It's a cog in the transportation system. And you might think, well, at least you're going to be there to either take the plane or not take the plane. But no, the tourist industry has been set up to make you a filler of this potentiality for running around that's on the runway. And why will people go? Just to get a rest and get more energetic so that they can plunge back into the rat race in which they're all replaceable. They're just doing some job efficiently, and if somebody comes along and does it more efficiently, they can be replaced.
One of the dangers of technology is it relieves us of the burden of having to develop skills. Technology is always sold as a labor-saving device. When you buy the latest technology for cooking, the promise is that you can cook as well as a master without any of the skills the master has. And that goes for everything, with music as well. So all of us now today can enjoy music of a quality unimaginable to most people in the history of the world in the comfort of our homes with very little cost and very little effort. That's a great promise. Who would give up on that pleasure of hearing music in that way? But the danger is that we give in to the seductions of technology to the degree that we lose all of these skills.
The internet is actually a much better example, because what the internet is doing is it's basically transforming all reality into information.
Everything on the internet is equal. You can have the most important information right next door to the most trivial. You can find out on Twitter what your friends had for breakfast, and you can find out also that there were 100 people killed in Iraq that day. With Google and find anything, and you can go in Wikipedia and get any facts about anything. And that in a certain way is terrific, if you just use it for something relevant. But if you think that that's just the best thing in the world, just to have more and more information, more and more transformable stuff, more and more applications for your iPhone that make it able to do more and more things, and that's just what it's all about, everything gets leveled. There's no meaningful differences anymore between what's important and not important, what's trivial and what's crucial, what's relevant and irrelevant. It's all reduced just to more information.
If you want to really be efficient, you don't want this kind of interference that, hey, this is Sunday, or this is Christmas, something you have to stop that, or this is the middle of the night, what do you think you're doing? No, 24/7 is one of the great achievements of our civilization. Some things go on all the time, are available all the time. And it's very handy. 3 o'clock in the morning, I rush to my computer and I can Google, and nobody's going to say to me on the screen, this is not available, this page is not available because you're supposed to be sleeping. No, they're going to give it to me. So it's absolutely great. I benefit from it myself, but you can see what this is doing What is it doing is making us look at time as something that is infinitely usable and extensible. Doesn't matter when it is, I can access, right? As against being, as it were, forced back into understanding that there are times that are just different, that have a different quality. It's not appropriate to use them in this way.
And it's true that it changes us. So we have to become the kind of people who are satisfied with the sort of commodities that are delivered to us. You could imagine people who really are connoisseurs of jazz music, who really understand that one of the great things about jazz music is the way the musicians are responding to the performance hall and the audience and the particular musicians that are there and the weather and whatever accidents are happening. The jazz musicians are incorporating it into their performance.
Responding to the other musicians is one of the most important things.
In playing together, you'll hear that in the music, where the piano will play something, the bass will react, and the drums are playing, and then the trumpet will jump in. You're interacting with everything. Everything is a part of what you're trying to get to. Anything can change what's happening. If the cell phone goes off, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, you know, the cat might make fun of it on the piano, or even on the trumpet, or whatever it is, and it all becomes a part of the performance.
And if you, as a listener, are a skillful listener and have the bodily dispositions to pick up on that, you'd never be satisfied by listening to a recorded jazz performance on CD, because that's not the performance that would be optimal for your bedroom or living room. But technology makes us also the sort of flexible people who are satisfied with a sort of cheap imitation of all the goods that deeply skillful practices deliver.
Somos artistas demostradores, somos artistas de sello propio, y somos artistas de sentimiento, y somos artistas de creadores de nuestra trascendencia.
I've heard that flamenco artists have a deep aversion to even being recorded for this very reason, that they have just an intuitive sense that recording them and making their performance reproducible in all sorts of foreign contexts is distorting what flamenco is really all about.
Ayer me preguntaste una cosa, me dijiste, ¿qué es el compás? Y yo te dije que el compás era una medida. Y no estoy de acuerdo con eso. El compás es una forma de andar, una forma de hablar, una forma de besar, una forma de abrazar. Eso es el compás.
Technology is something to be grateful for. We have to learn how to not be seduced by technology, to keep this drive alive, this desire alive, to be humans.
In his last years, Heidegger was trying to figure out how to resist the technological understanding of being and have a meaningful human life in spite of it.
We're speaking to a malaise that a lot of people feel. But they may feel, well, I feel this malaise, but I mean, I have no right to, because this is progress, right? This is civilization, or this is modernity, or this is, we've made this tremendous leap ahead from all those benighted peasants in the Middle Ages, so who am I to complain? This sense of being sort of morally compelled not to protest, which a lot of people have alongside the feeling that something's wrong here, but I can't believe the feeling because reason tells me the contrary. We can explode that myth.
The problem is how to respect technology, appreciate technology, use it to get rid of all the dumb stuff that we used to have to do, and yet not let it get rid of what matters and what is local and what is unique and what is significant and meaningful for us.
If I think nature around me is nothing but meaningless stuff waiting to be optimized, then why shouldn't I just put a nice big hotel here, make a lot of money, all the people can see the ocean? The idea that there's something there independently of me is something you have to cultivate and develop a sensitivity to. And I think that's what a poet does. The poet is sort of the paradigmatic instance of the person who's learned a receptivity to things independent of us. We can all learn that. You don't have to be a poet or an artist, you know. You can be a cook or a carpenter or a soccer player. Life is made most meaningful when you respond to meanings that are independent of you, right? I mean, this is a point that goes back to Kierkegaard. Kierkegaard said that if you think all meaning comes from you, then you can just take it back. You're a king without a castle, right? You're a sovereign of a land of nothing. There has to be something in the world that pushes back, that has some force over you, or else you'll never experience anything as really mattering to you.
¿Y por qué las guitarras que no son artesanales son tan malas?
Porque las hace una máquina y la máquina no siente, la máquina no entiende. Entonces, las guitarras están vivas siempre, la madera está viva siempre. Y no es lo mismo. Una cómoda, ya no vamos a hablar de una guitarra, vamos a hablar de una cómoda, de un aparador, de una mesa. Cuando la hace la mano del hombre, la comida en esa mesa sabe de otra manera. En un plato que lo haya hecho una máquina.
Sí.
A comer en un plato que está hecho de barro, que viene de la tierra, y que lo haya tocado la mano humana. ¿Por qué? Porque hay dedicación. A las cosas se diferencian, la máquina se diferencia del hombre, precisamente que el hombre no es una máquina.
The standardization that's required for efficiency rules out those sorts of practices. And what characterizes all of them is that they're not terribly efficient. They require a real sensitivity and receptivity to what the particular world requires.
Japanese carpentry doesn't have the focus on efficiency. It's the quality that's really important and the feeling. And so some projects, for instance, Hiroshi did this project that took 7 years. After he selected the wood, it took 2 years for the wood to dry, and then it took 18 months for him to cut everything out in his shop. You have to be patient if you want a Japanese structure.
The way in which Michelangelo saw David in the marble, there was like the inchoate possibility of David, and he brought it out. For me, that's what we all have to do in our lives, in whatever way. You know, and it's a little mysterious to talk about it like that, but I think anybody who gets really good at things has some sense for what it means to bring out what's there that nobody's seen. For me, it was sports when I was younger, now it's teaching, right? So, and that means interpreting texts. So I get incredible joy out of showing that a text that's been read for 2,000 years, there's things there that nobody's ever seen, that are really there, and that once we, articulate them together, we can all see that they're really there, right? That great texts are inexhaustible in the same way that reality itself is inexhaustible. I think that's the lesson, that there's this kind of mysterious source that continues to offer humanity meaning. You can call it God if you're religious.